God, who's cleaning in this place? Oh, seems like someone's moving. What do we have here? Oh, miniatures. I think there's more where this came from. Oh, hello. Joaquim got nothing on me. Let's see. Who's this? Hey, where are you pointing at? Oh, I see. Do you know who wants you to like this video? Candy wants you to like this video. Hi, my name is Chris, better known as Travarian, and today we're going to paint a quick non-metallic metal gold. Before we start with this video, sorry for the slightly potato setup I'm filming with. You can probably hear it in the audio, but this whole room is empty because we're moving out and we're moving into a flat where I'm going to have a studio that is the size of this current flat, so it's pretty exciting. But it also means this room is empty. You can even see the drilled holes in the wall back there, so I beg your pardon for the slightly worse setup than usual. A byproduct of moving, unfortunately, is also the reduced amount of YouTube videos. However, I tried to squeeze in some YouTube content, so here's a video about how I paint warm non-metallic gold. Now, before you say, are you crazy, because gold is obviously always having a lot of yellow in it, and yellow is on the side of the warmer colors in the color wheel. What I mean when I say warm gold is always in relation to a spectrum of how you can paint gold. Besides yellow, non-metallic gold is made up out of a lot of color combinations. There are brown tones, orange tones. For example, the way I'm painting this gold here. And then there's the possibility to paint gold with a lot of black, going over yellow into a more desaturated yellow. And when you compare the two, obviously one of those is going to be warmer looking, warmer appearing than the other. Here you can see a gold that I consider colder in comparison to the first example. Both of these videos that deal with warm and cold gold more in depth are available on my Patreon campaign page. I'm starting with a mix of black and Mephiston red. The idea is just to have a darker brown color there to create the darkest parts of the gold. I also have Rhinoxide on the palette, and if you really don't want to mix, you could start off of Rhinoxide instead. Okay, maybe mix in a tiny bit of black. When applying the base color, the biggest challenge here was not to hit any of the already painted areas below. Steady, no breathing, then you can just fill in the rest. Since we want the warmer tone, I'm mixing in orange-brown by Vallejo. Moving forward, there's a few steps that I will repeat, covering less and less space as my layers get brighter. Starting with the edges, including the tips of the feathers, then putting in the major reflections, and I choose to just do one here to keep it simple. You can see that I'm angling my brush strokes to create the reflection pattern, and I align the reflections to follow the curve of the feathers. Another thing I want to do is highlight the upper edges of the feathers. They are not really sculpted, but it defines the shape better and makes the overall appearance more credible and interesting. Basically what I do is outline each feather. Next I'm mixing in flat yellow by Vallejo, and I keep repeating the steps, starting with edge highlights. Then putting in the major reflection, tips of the feathers, and you can see that I alternate between these steps. There's no thought behind this, that's just me getting, oh look, butterfly. I'm leaving a darker spot just before the feathers end to make the reflection pattern more interesting besides just having one reflection. I'm leaving a darker spot just before the feathers end to make the reflection pattern more interesting, even though we just have one big reflection. Mixing in more flat yellow and repeating the steps. The biggest challenge is to do the outlines of the upper edges of the feathers. I edited out all the parts where I just stroked the same area for a million times, and it looks like there's no paint transferring at all, and the video suddenly was 10 minutes shorter. But as you can see, the effect is definitely worth it. I'm using the broad side of the brush whenever possible to highlight the other edges because that's way easier. Once everything is properly outlined, I'm adding ice yellow as my final highlight color. I don't like to use white and gold, and since we got to almost black in the shadows, the perceived contrast will be enough. It doesn't matter which order you go through the steps. You see that this greatly improves our brightness. I wanted more contrast, so I glazed in a bit of black mixed with Rhinox hide to the darkest areas. I'm aiming for more orange gold like these laurel leaves, but at this point we lost a bit too much of the orange brown, so I'm glazing in a few layers on the transition of the yellow and the darker colors. This looks a bit better if you manage to leave the orange showing through from earlier layers, but that's layering for you. Sometimes you get carried away and you just simply cover too much. Now, the goal here is to keep some of the darkest areas and keep enough of the yellow for everything to still read as gold. And last I'm tidying up a few edges again and painting in the last brightest reflections. And that's it. Didn't take too long and looks pretty good. I will upload a guide on how to do the rest of this power weapon to my Patreon in October. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next video. Dollar Shave Club, please sponsor me. One question that I'm getting a lot